Hey, hello, welcome back. Artist Cycling. I'm Greg Leach, that guy there in the plaid shirt. And hey, I'm actually working on cycling still. So this painting has been a struggle. And you can see here in the middle between these two figures that I'm working on that I eliminated somebody and come in and now laid in the background. So that person is now completely gone. And sort of moving through the faces, getting this laid out. But this was a struggle because I've gotten used to looking at my cycling art with watercolors, which is, no pun intended, a lot more fluid than the oil sticks. And so movement, lack of specificity is part and parcel of the watercolors, and the oil sticks don't really work that way. I've tried to keep this loose, and but now I'm getting to where I like the piece. And I'm working on, this is very much a green painting, which is unusual for me. I thought I'd come in here and get a little detail in real time as I work on this piece. So doing one of the cycling cleats, if any of you ride with any degree of regularity, you'll find that cleats are just a fabulous. And I've been riding long enough. I've gone through a long history of attaching your feet to bicycle pedals. But these clipless pedals, meaning no toe clips, are just fabulous. But so I'm working through getting some of the dark of the sole, some of the shadow lines. Like my shoes have a black tongue and bright color. So these are sort of loosely patterned off of those. So now I have the darker. So the older alizarin crimsons are a darker, deeper red than the new alizarin crimsons. Shiva has changed their color. So this is actually, I think, the older color. No, this is the newer color. So it's more of a deep red, whereas the alizarin crimson from before, older recipe, is a deeper, there's a lot more blue in it, I guess is the best way to say it. And that's actually what I'm dragging through, the blue here, and that's what gives me my great blacks. I also, you'll notice that I always work inside the edges of the paper so that I can do things like this, like break this foot outside. See, now I went and grabbed some naphtha red to add a little bit of highlight to that. So just trying to make that a little brighter. Oh, what had happened there was the thumbtack, because the paper's in a coil, the thumbtack had finally popped out of the wall, and I reached over to push it back in. When we do a wide shot, you'll see the, well, not thumbtacks, but push pins that are holding the artwork to the wall. I designed and built my own studio, and when I did it, I put windows up really high so I'd have a lot of wall space to paint on. Sort of, specific built studio for my specific needs. Yes, when I say I built the studio, the only thing I didn't do was dig the footer and set the foundation blocks. But from that point on, from slab to electrical wiring, I skipped dealing with plumbing. My one downfall when it comes to housework. But the whole studio was constructed, and it was a fun project. My father, who is now passed on, and I and my older son were the principal labor on it. We had some help from other people occasionally. But no contractors. No day laborers, just us. So I think this is about this foot. I just wanted to let you see this thing happen sort of in real time. Now I'm taking a little bit of the alizarin crimson and trying to get rid of that more blatantly obvious phthalo blue that was shining through. And while these colors are opaque, you still can see the paper popping up through. It's one of the reasons I've started using the RF whites, because they're so much more opaque. And you got a glimpse there of my paint rag. So now I've moved over, and this is sort of the last section of the painting. And trying to figure out, and I realized when I got over here, I was thinking about doing another red bike. And I realized, well, there's an awful lot of red bikes here already. So I thought I'd make this one sort of a pale yellow, which kind of balances against the purples that are popping up here and there. So while there's a whole range of the cool colors, blues, purples, greens, there's conversely the yellows, oranges, and reds, and so it's like the entire color wheel is in this painting. It's not as a straightforward single pair or split composition, but instead, like I say, the entire color wheel. So I think I disappeared for a second to go let the dog inside. So you're now just working on this first bicycle, which we don't see very much of. Just the fork, the rear stay, and a bit of the seat tube where the seat post goes into the tube. This is a little bit of the disc brake. Everybody in this ride is riding disc brakes. I don't miss the rim brakes anymore. Particularly when I go out and it starts raining. Disc brakes are so much more effective for stopping. And of course, I need to do the background of this blue. I kind of feel like it's the, on race courses they will have the barrier that holds the crowds out of the race course, hopefully. And that's sort of what that blue is referencing in the Degas that I'm using as my inspiration for this. There is no specific barrier. Of course, there also are no crowds, just as there are no crowds watching in this piece. And so now the other bike is going to be a bright yellow-green. You know, I thought about a blue bike, but it would meld into the blue background. And that's one of the advantages of working from memory and, creating work while based in my reality. I'm not locked into local color, the actual color of the actual object I'm painting. So I'm free to manipulate that color to fit the needs of the painting. And I know I've said it before on these videos, but whenever you're creating a work of art from a subject matter, painting a still life, painting from the model, whatever it may be, no one will ever see what you painted from. They will only see what you painted. So feel free to make those changes that make your painting better. That's one of the advantages we have. I was actually talking with a bike race photographer, and I was like, well, one of the advantages I have is that telephone pole looks bad in my composition. I can simply get rid of it. Whereas the photographer is kind of stuck with it unless they want to spend a lot of time in Photoshop, which I guess isn't cheating, but I kind of feel like it is. But again, even in that case, the final product is what's important, and not that it was faithful to the environs that it was depicting. So sort of all of that is to say, have fun. I did get a very nice comment on the first half of this, the video from the first half of this painting, was someone saying, you know, they're struggling a little bit, they can't ride their bike like they used to, and they have some oil sticks. And the nice compliment was, having watched the first half of this video, they were like, I should pick those things up and play with them. And 100%, like particularly if you've already bought them and you've had them for a year or two, they're already, quote unquote, going to waste anyway. So why not pull them out and use them? The worst that could happen is they've continued to go to waste. I mean, anytime you try, anytime you learn while making mistakes, if you will, you've learned. In fact, I often feel that the paintings like this one that I struggle for are my better paintings because they're better for me as the artist. So feel free to get in there and make boo-boos, make a mess. And so this back wall is a combination of the phthalo blue, and so like right now there's phthalo blue there. Now I've picked up the dioxine purple, laid some of that in, and then I'll take the white across it, and that sort of functions as my blender as well as my creating more pastel of a color. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm sort of working through each one of these little sections that are the background by blue, then dioxine, and then white. Sorry, I've yet to figure out the right way for you all to be able to see, because I get wrapped up in making the painting. And of course there's no way for me to walk back and look at what it looks like while I'm painting, because I can't see the camera. And I kind of feel like that's as it should be. I could try something like setting the camera backwards and blah, 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 but then the whole painting would be backwards. That being said, it's always a good idea to, once you have your painting laid out, of course it's easy now with cell phones or whatever, to take a picture of it and flip the image, because that will help you see what's actually there, if you will, without your mind looking at what it thinks it sees, because now it has to look at it fresh, because it isn't what it knows, it thinks it knows to be there. I know that was a weird way to say that. Like I had a studio once that had windows all the way around, and so I could simply look at the reflection, particularly when I was painting at night. And that gave me the way to see where my perspective lines were off, something was wrong, odd about the body, that kind of thing. I was able to look hard and go, okay, that's what needs to be corrected. And actually, right now, what I'm working on is a mistake. I think when I go to the time-lapse video, you'll see me correct that. But the diagonal line of that green and blue intersection is not on the same diagonal as the rest of the painting. So eventually I do come back there and pull the green up into the blue. I know I did it, I just can't remember when I did it, camera-wise. And I've always liked working with the oil sticks. I've used them. Yeah, here we go. Here's the correction. Because color is a direct relationship with the color next to it. You can alter a color simply by changing the colors around it. And so when you work on a palette, the color you mix is being influenced by the colors around it on the palette. And when you pick it up and put it on the canvas, it can have it be a very different color. Now, admittedly, yes, you're looking at that relationship and you can still manipulate the color. But I do all of my mixing, as you can see, right there on the surface. And I know I haven't talked about it in a while, but I don't use very many different oil sticks. It's probably 8 or 9. So alizarin crimson, naphthalene red, orange azu, yellow azu, or azu yellow, azu orange, AZO, phthalo blue, phthalo green, and white. Oh, dioxazine purple. That's it. And mix everything. So I call it owning the colors. I would discourage you from squeezing out a tube of a color, picking it up with your brush and laying it down. You should always try to own all of your color. One of the things I like is because, again, this cutting off, I just love that we only have the legs of this cyclist. We just have the bottom half of the cyclist, which admittedly is where all a cyclist's strength lies. I mean, you need a good core. You're definitely using your forearms and your triceps and your mind and your lungs. But most of the muscle mass on a cyclist is in those calves and thighs. So that sort of encapsulates that idea, that one figure. He does have a really big foot, though. And I think here I do pull this green down into a little bit. Let's see if I'm right. I think I did a little bit, but yeah, no, that's all I did. So while I'm doing the voiceover here, I do have the actual painting in front of me because I'm doing this in the studio so I can get a little bit of quiet. You don't have to hear my dogs yapping. So I think I'll switch here to the time-lapse pretty soon because laying in this green and watching me do that can get a little less than interesting. But just trying to get this moved, mixed in real well. And that's one of the things you got to pay attention to as you lay in these, layers of color. Whereas I'm not looking for a solid, like house painter solid green. I am looking for it to have some cohesiveness. But also, how you make the mark influences that. So yeah, it looks like I'm walking up to turn this on to time-lapse now. I think I skipped it. Well, doesn't matter. You don't need to see it. So here's the chance to come in close, see how it looks from my point of view right up on top of the painting. And you can see it is a lot looser. There's a lot of texture. The marks show the strokes and how things go. And it helps inform the musculature. This thing that, so you can see, and the strokes that I'm talking about, that those backgrounds aren't static. They're not house painter color like I just said, but there's real movement and direction. And those background pieces like that green, these two pale greens, which are different, and that's okay. I like that. They're every bit as important as the shoulder, head, helmet, whatever that's next to it. That all of that is of a piece, as it were. So no area of your canvas is more, I say canvas in this case, paper, is more important than the other. And you can see there's a real intentional variation. And of course, the painting isn't done until it's signed. And this, of course, is let's go. I haven't done group rides in a while, but that staying around waiting for everybody to get their butts in gear So this is, and every once in a while I blow my own signature. It is what it is. And of course, I always date it the date it's finished. And there, the 20th. And this was it. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you'll come back and watch the next painting when it starts. Thank you so much.